Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to talk about the difference between multiversal, hyperversal, outerversal, and omniversal. So before we get into it, I want to say something is that the reason why I don't do animation sometimes is because, well, I need to buy the sound effects in the Flippa Clip animation app, and I don't know if my parents really accept that if I'm just, buying, well, sound effects in my Flippa Clip animation app. Sort of. So I just decided to move seats for some reason. I don't know what's the reason. So anyways, without further ado, let's just move on. So let's start off with the difference between multiversal, hyperversal, outerversal, and omniversal. People get very confused with these terms due to the fact that how other fictional universes uses them. Since other fictional universes describe an infinite dimensional cosmological structure as a multiverse. However, the definition of a multiverse contains infinite universes, and that's it. And the reason why scientists call it a multiverse is because it contains infinite universes. However, a multiverse can't contain an infinite number of universes, but can in fact contain a finite number of universes or an infinite number of universes. Or it can contain a finite amount of dimensions. Although scientists specifically describe a multiverse, meaning a structure, a cosmological structure that contains an infinite or a finite number of universes with a finite amount of dimensions. Now we go to a hyperverse. You see, a hyperverse is basically an infinite dimensional structure that contains an uncountable amount of infinite dimensions, or countable amount of infinite dimensions, depending on what ordinal infinity you want to use. If you don't know what ordinal infinity is, it's basically, sets of infinities from aleph, null, aleph 1, and we got ellipson O, and so on, up until absolute infinity. And I think the reason why people get confusing the terms multiversal with hyperversal is because Marvel and DC sometimes, describe the multiverse as being some sort of structure that contains infinite universes and infinite dimensions. However, in real life, it can mean a cosmological structure that contains a finite or infinite amount of universes and a finite amount of dimensions. Now, for some of you who don't know what finite is, it's basically something that has a limited amount of, well, things. And now we move to outerversal. Now, what is an outerverse? Well, outerversal are basically a structure that extends beyond infinite dimensions. These characters are basically characters that are Platonic concepts. They're basically concepts that basically lives outside of space and time itself, like above spatial temporal rules, which what spatial dimensions is equated to. Any being limited by spatial temporal rules are not true Platonic concepts. So sometimes I get confused with people. I get confused with different comic issues about Marvel and DC. Some of their abstracts are basically, hyperversal, while in Marvel Platonic concepts are, while in DC Platonic concepts are outerversal. So I think there is some sort of distinct difference between abstract and maybe Platonic concepts. Maybe, I don't know. Make sure you guys, comment down below of what do you think about this. Although I am in restricted mode, so can't see your comments or any videos for that matter, or any videos that is restricted by restricted mode for that matter. And now we move on to omniversal. Omniversal is basically a structure that that contains, well, everything. Although in my verse called the reality verse, there is a ton of cosmological structures. Like, sorry of going off topic for a bit. Like the complex verse, which contains an infinite number of omniverses. Although you see, in the complex verse is built very well complex, no pun intended. And also, it also contains omniverses that are stacked on top of each other, each omniverse viewing the previous as mere fiction. if an omniverse is smaller than the previous omniverse, then the omniverse is a lower narrative, and therefore is viewed by higher omniverse as fiction. However, if an omniverse that is bigger, or that is higher and bigger than the previous omniverse, then that omniverse is a higher narrative, and beings on those narratives views the previous narrative as fiction. And the gods living within the complex verse are basically beings that lives on a higher narrative or transcend an infinite amount of. They also transcend an uncountable amount of infinite and beyond infinite narratives. Once again, countable is Aleph 0, or Aleph null for that matter. And uncountable is basically Aleph 1 and Aleph 2 and so on and so forth up to Aleph 8. And we also got the transverse, and beings within the transverse, or gods for that matter, views the complex verse as merely a canvas for them to draw on. However, that doesn't mean they're authorable. And we also got the divine verse, which stands infinitely above the transverse and contains an infinite number of transverses. However, the afterlife is, much larger, but not large. Large is because they're actually much farther than, it's actually a bit farther than the divine verse. And then more cosmological structures and so on and so forth. That's how it works. And so, sorry for going off topic, but anyways, back to the topic of omniverse. So, in order to understand what an omniverse is, we need to understand the word itself. Omni means all, and verse is basically, well, I don't know, maybe some sort of structure or something like that. And combining these two created an omniverse. A verse is some sort of cosmological structures that extends within or beyond infinite dimensions, something like that. I don't know what it means, so make sure you guys comment down below of what you think it truly is. An omniverse basically contains everything that exists. It can contain anything that you can imagine, dream of, or thought of, something like that. And so anyways, that's it for the differentiations between multiversal, hyperversal, outerversal, and omniversal. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed, hopefully you guys liked the video, and hopefully you guys like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and peace out.